That's actually Bugsy Malone, but you can't see it. Yeah, this is uh, I can't remember what I called it. Film DVD pickups. And I think my last one was almost 2 months ago. And it's strange how, in the context of making YouTube videos, it feels like all I do is buy. I'm like constantly buying DVDs and games, but then there's not a lot that much here. It's a pile of 15. There's like different bits or less, but and in 2 months, that's what's that? That's nothing. That's like one every 4 days, roughly. Yeah. Yeah, I've actually already done this before, but the first go, I wasn't happy with for whatever reason. You probably take a wild guess what that was about. But then the problem with, I think TG Appalachian mentioned it in a recent video, like when you have to redo things, you find yourself, whether or not you're actually sticking to a script, either way, you do find yourself like rehashing the same jokes and saying the same things, whether or not you've got a script or not. It's so I probably will find myself revisiting certain conversational avenues. I was going to say transits, but that wouldn't make any sense. So yeah. So it's nearly been 2 months. I think the last one was on the 9th of it's October, isn't it? 9th of August. So it's all DVDs bar one. The first thing there, it's vaguely sort of televisionally related. It's Flight of the Conchords, the CD. I love Flight of the Conchords. I wish they'd do another series. I don't think they're going to because they're too successful now. But I just love the music. This is from the first series. Yeah, I wanted this. I wanted this almost straight away when I saw the television program, but um, for some reason never got off my arse to go and buy it. Probably because I'm preoccupied spending my money on buying games. So and this was always the sort of thing that would get pushed to the side until I saw it in a charity shop, and I did, and it was only £1 in a Sue Ryder. But I think I'm going to leave a couple of links to videos of some of their songs. My favourites are Ladies of the World and Ladies of the World, in which there's a rhyme. They rhyme the words hermaphrodite and erudite. Doesn't get much better than that. And also Business Time. But there's some. That's not to say the others aren't also brilliant. The second series, the second album is almost as good, or just as good. There's some brilliant songs in it. They in a lot of these they do tend to sort of reference certain musicians. Like there's actually a song in this called Bowie, and it's all done in a sort of a cod David Bowie voice. But Inner City Pressure, for instance, is very much Pet Shop Boys. But they're all really, really funny. So yeah, check out the links below. And if you like them, have a crack at the television program. All the rest of the DVDs. The first one is the only television program. All the rest beyond this, the rest of the films. This was aired on the BBC a few years ago, and bit of a quirky, almost sort of sitcom thing because it's not like out and out hilarious, and it's pretty dark. I think it's a remake of an Australian program. It's Wilfred with Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood continues to invent himself, tries to escape the old, typecasting as a little hairy, mystical, hairy-footed, long-haired, mystical dude from Middle Earth. it's pretty dark. It is funny. It's done for laughs. Got Elijah Wood as I can't remember I can't remember the character's name. Ryan, I think. Yeah, Elijah Wood is Ryan, and does he have an accident or does he have some sort of trauma or he has a breakup with his girlfriend? But he takes a lot of drugs anyway. Either way, he takes a lot of drugs, and then the main setup of the program is he starts seeing his next door neighbour's dog. His next door neighbour, who is this girl he fancies, he starts seeing a dog as an Australian man in a dog suit, and that's pretty much the setup for the rest of the program. And it is really good actually. I think, like I said, it's a remake of the original Australian program, but I like the extra angle in this. The fact that I think they've recast the original actor who was in the Australian version as the dog in this one, in the American remake. So it gives an extra angle in the American version, the man in the dog suit just happens to be Australian, whereas in the original Australian version, it wouldn't have been such a thing because everyone's Australian in Australia. Well, not everyone. Anyway, so it's just a bit of a weird, sort of slightly surreal angle, and it is, yeah. He's basically a dog, and he does dog stuff. But he's really manipulative, and it's pretty dark. And I think you don't know whether or not he's actually seeing this man is actually a dog because he does certain things which suggest it's not just his Elijah Wood's imagination. But then at the other times, no one else sees this dog man. It's basically just Elijah Wood. So, yeah. And there was another, like I said, there was another series. I think there might have been more. I don't know, but they're good. They're good. They're not out and out hilarious. I like how manipulative the dog is. He gets him to do stuff, and then you don't know whether it's just him being a dog or whether or not. Oh, I'm talking bollocks, but it's quite difficult to explain. But just go and watch it. Give it a crack. Right, all the rest of the films. First one is a film called Franklin. £1.25 in the sherry shop. Excuse me. This is another one that's hard to explain. It's all about parallel worlds. You've got excuse me, Sam Riley. I wasn't going to call him Sam Neill. Sam Riley. He was Ian Curtis in the Joy Division film. Sam Riley plays this character in the real world, and it's all about intersecting worlds. I mean, this character, I think he's Ryan Philippe. I think he's actually Franklin, the character. He lives in a sort of a dystopian parallel world, ruled over by this sort of these mysterious judges, these dudes who go walking around looking like Victorian judges and dishing out their punishments, their retributions. It's all about parallel worlds, and sort of certain points intersect and sort of cross over from one world into the other. The trailers are slightly misleading because they do make a big emphasis on this sort of the hyper stylized sort of alternative world. But there's more of the actual sort of the real world. But whereas it's all really nicely designed when you do see it, and there's all these intersecting points and characters and stuff, and it jumps backwards and forwards. But it's slightly misleading, and the trailers will lead you to believe it's all sort of like a hyper stylized, set in a hyper stylized, like I said, alternate dystopia. But in reality, it's a bit sort of more 50-50. But yeah. It's about, like I said, it's about intersecting events in these two parallel worlds, and it's quite difficult to. He plays sort of like a freedom fighter, fighting against he's like a sort of terrorist almost, fighting against this authoritative regime. And I can't remember what she does, but she's a bird. I think she's an artist. Can't remember. I think she's in both alternate worlds. I can't remember. Ruby Sparks, I mentioned this in my films I've seen recently, the last one, so I won't say too much about this, but it's sort of like I suppose you call it metaphysical romantic comedy. A bit sort of, if you like Charlie Kaufman films, like Adaptation, and they have that sort of extra sort of fantastical element to them, metaphysical elements. So, where he's a writer and he writes about, he's stuck and he writes about his perfect woman, just to basically just to reignite his creative flow. He writes about this girl because he's a bit of a loser when it comes to women, and he writes about his perfect woman and somehow manifests her in reality, and he can control her through his writing. So yeah, if you like the sound of that, it's not as sort of weird and girly as you imagine it. It's more from his perspective, but yeah, it's actually it's pretty good. Bit of an bit of an underground, not hit so much, but like this is a film I saw at Franklin. Both films I saw with no expectations and just sort of saw a few reviews and thought, oh, that sounds interesting, and try them. And because you have no expectations, it somehow elevates them up just beyond. They turned out to be better than you imagine, better than than you might expect. So like you appreciate them more, and they stick in your head. This is one I've not seen. It's 50-50. You've got basically Joseph Gordon-Levitt and as a guy who gets cancer apparently, and Seth Rogen as his mate. And all reviews say it's a totally unpatronising portrayal of terminal illness. So, and most reviews are really good. But one of my favourite film reviewers, Philip Bradshaw in The Guardian, didn't like it at all. Gave it 1 star, I think, 1 or 2. Look at that. So, but it's I mean, if you go by the other reviews, it's supposed to be really good. But obviously the subject matter is is very much not. It's not jolly, put it that way. This is jolly, although not you wouldn't guess so by the front cover. It's called Severance. Really, really, really good. By the same guy who made The Black Death, actually, and Creep. Oh, wow, he's sort of likes his jolly little subject matters, but no, it's basically it's a really, really, really high quality, very low key, sort of gone under the radar horror comedy about a company a group of workers from an arms company who go on a works trip, bonding trip to Eastern Europe to go and basically do team building in like paintballing and stuff in a forest. But they go to their company lodge in I think it's supposed to be Hungary, but because because it's in sort of the same area where there were sort of experimentations, sort of because of they're an arms company, and so there's all these sort of dodgy history from years in the past, and being an ex Soviet state, it's all a bit sketchy, and there were a few people sort of I won't go too far, but there are certain grievances held over from the past, put it that way. But it's really, really good. Very, very knowing, self-aware, self-referential. There's lots of conversations that sort of come right round, and certain things, very funny. There's a joke I love. A joke in this. It's a joke with a leg. Joke with a leg. And Danny Dye's in it. Danny Dye's actually really good. I don't always like. I think Danny Dye is actually really funny. He's a really funny bloke, and he does know his shit. He's not totally stupid. He does know that a lot of the films he's in are shit. But that's the thing, really. A lot of the stuff he's in is shit. But this isn't one of them. This is really good. It's called Severance. Let the Right One In. A Scandinavian, Swedish take on the alternative take on the sort of vampire mythology. Vampire mythology. Bloody, I hate that. Look, it looks really bright there. Look, bright and sweaty. As soon as I look, gloomy. Hold on. Scandinavian take or Swedish take on the vampire mythology about a young boy it's set in the 80s. A young boy who's a bit of an outsider, and he's bullied at school, and he meets this young girl this mysterious young girl who he later discovers he's actually a vampire because she only comes out at night. Jesus Christ. Um, yeah, really, really good. Dark. Remade has let me in, I think, in America. Where I think the American version is more of a straight up horror, whereas this is a bit more sort of teen angsty, which makes it more interesting in my book. And I always thought I had this, but turns out I didn't, which is a bit weird, a bit annoying. I always remember stuff I've got, generally, not 100%, 99% of the time. But I didn't have this, I thought I did. And I wanted one with a sleeve, but annoyingly, that had a sort of sticker on it, and I tried to get it off and ripped it, so I was going to have to, just going to bin it. So, yeah, let the right one in. Give it a crack. Over the American version. Although I've heard the American version is not bad. It's just a bit more conventional. 50p into the world. Sean Penn's adaptation of a true life story about a guy called Christopher McCandless, I think his name is. Again, that's also set in the 80s. Middle class upbringing, expected big things of him. He goes to university, graduates, and on graduating, he decides to basically cast off his middle class upbringing and all of his privileges, and basically go and live off the land in is it not Alaska or somewhere in North America, much to the is it consternation? Is that even? Am I got my? Isn't that stars? There is a word, isn't it? It sounds like consternation. Much to the dislike, there you go, of his parents, of his very much middle class bourgeois parents. And it is a really good film, but be warned, it's by turns inspiring. I do get inspired by this film. I watch it, and I go, yeah, I can do that. I'm gonna go and do that. I'll be fucked. I'll be fucked within 5 minutes if I did it. But it's also inspiring but heartbreaking. It's not one I could watch over and over again. I'd have to build myself up to watch this. So it's inspiring and heartbreaking in equal measure, but really good. And this is apparently, I didn't know this is coming in a two disc version. I don't know what you got on the other disc. Special features, story and characters, the experience, but it's got a really good cast. And a film. It came from the same place. They're both 50p. This is my local, actually, out the road. This is a documentary. Really, really good. I've only seen this once, but a long time ago. But it stuck in my head. Really, really good. A documentary about a primary school teacher in a small rural primary school in France. He basically is this one teacher who has a class of varying ages for this sort of rural community. It says, I'll read on the back because they can explain it better than I can. Etre et avoir is charming and intimate portrait of a single-class primary school in rural France and its inspirational teacher. Ranging in age from 4 to 10, the small handful of pupils are are taught by the remarkable and wise Georges Lopez, whose patience and enlightened methods highlight a genuine affection for his young charges. It is really good. I mean, it's obviously French. It sounds a bit worthy and a bit, but it's actually really good. Really easy watch. I know I always find myself, when I'm looking for DVDs, I always find myself drawn to these artificial eye releases. But yeah, if that sounds interesting, give it a go. I mean, that might be so far from your sort of thing that you think, well, why would I want to watch that? But it is really, really uplifting. A film I've never seen. I love the first two, although I do tend to get them confused. So is the second one a remake of the first one, which is slightly more comedic? I remember watching the first one. I couldn't remember which one I was watching, and the end didn't end how I remembered it ending. So obviously, I thought I was watching the second one because the first one he doesn't end with his, in that certain way. It doesn't end. I won't give that away if you haven't seen it. Yeah, not seen this. Always wanted to see it. I don't know how. Obviously, it's a massive departure from the first two. Always wanted to see it, but Evil Dead 3: Army of Darkness. I remember seeing trailers on VHS and thought, that looks brilliant. But yeah, bit of a no-brainer for me. Loved the first one. Loved the first one. The first one felt real to me. The In-Betweeners films. I know it's a bit sort of cheap and crass, coarse, but and the laughs are easily. They're not subtle, are they? But I love the first one. I've recognised the situations. I've been in situations like that. I've been on holidays like that. In some respects, I just thought me and my mates were a lot like them. I don't recognise as much in this. I've never been sort of properly travelling or been to Australia, but it's. I think there are less laughs in this, but bigger laughs. The ending, especially, I was literally pissing myself. No, not pissing myself. Literally crying. I wasn't literally pissing myself, but no. I've already seen it twice. I think I watched it the night I bought it, which is quite rare for me. I was that keen to see it, and it did pay off. Slightly disappointed with the first half because it was all a bit, by the numbers. A bit too. Felt like it was, by the book, what they expected of the characters. But then the ending is just hilarious. And then there are the really good sort of set piece jokes in between, but slightly less. It's less consistent than the first film, but yeah, really, really good. This is definite keeper, actually. I don't know how it reviewed, but yeah. These next three, there's a bit of story around these. I went on a sort of an outing. I went on an outing, so I'm going on somewhere on a coach. No, I went out and about around my local town because I wanted to get something. I don't know if I've shown it already. I won't say what it was because I don't. Like I said, I don't know if I've shown it already. I don't want to give it away because, like I said, I've said in the past, all these pickup videos about the reveal, aren't they? Yeah. So it was heavy, put it that way. Heavy. I had one bag over one shoulder and a heavy bag over the other shoulder, and I was really weighed down like that. I went to this charity shop, and I don't know if you want to bother going through this whole story because, like I said, I'm rehashing this whole thing, and that took long enough to tell the story the first time. I went to this charity shop, saw these 3 DVDs, but only had would have come to about 350, and only had 95p. So I had to go to the nearest bank, and I knew where there was a bank or a cash machine. Got to where I thought the bank was, but the bank had actually closed down in the last. And wasn't that long ago. I'd been there last, but the bank had closed down. So I was going to get a fiver out. There's a little tip for you people because I'm a member of Barclays. If you don't want to get a tenner out, go into the inside of Barclays. Quite often you can get fivers out. You can't get fivers outside. I don't know why, but you can on the inside. But anyway, that's irrelevant because this Barclays was closed. So I had to find another bank machine. I found a Budgeons, but there was no bank machine in it. And then I found the most difficult bank machine on forecourt of a local petrol station. One of these freestanding ones. Sent me all around houses. It was just one of these situations. It was like something out of a horrible sitcom, It had buttons. It gave me all these options, and I picked one option. Then it asked me again if I wanted I think it asked me, would you like cash no receipt? I think yes, please, cash no receipt. And then it asked me, would you like a receipt? And I said no, wouldn't like a receipt. But the no button didn't work, so then I had to press yes. And then it told me that sorry, we're unable to print your receipt. But I didn't want one in the first place. And then when I'd finished that little bit, because still haven't got my money, it said, "Oh, we have printed out your receipt, but you told me I couldn't have one, and not I wanted one anyway." So I had to go. I went around that whole process again just to confirm that the button wasn't working, and it wasn't. And then it sent me all around the houses. And after about 10 minutes of waiting, I got my money. In a sort of annoying roundabout way. And I've been there so long that on the way back, because it was a Friday afternoon, it was chucking out, and I had to walk back with my heavy bags through all the school kids chucking out, school kids chucking out, which was bloody annoying. And then I got to the charity shop, and then there was 3 old ladies behind the counter, and one of them was new, and then they had to decide how much they were going to charge me, and then that took about another 10 minutes, and then the one who was new was operating the till, and she was having trouble, she didn't know how to work it, and then the other ones had to sort of make up for her mistakes. Eventually, when they decided how much they were going to charge me, I gave them the tenner I'd got out of the machine, and then they held it up and they put it in one of them fluorescent light machines to show that it was legit. But then the old lady who was new had put it in the wrong way round, and then she had to sort of turn it around, and it was just like, yeah, it wasn't. There's no end to the story. I got all my stuff in the end, but you know how there's certain situations where all this sort of these annoying, like, all this shit seems to somehow hit you all at once. And what should have taken 5 minutes to go and get some money and come back, it seems to take about an hour. But it was funny, and it was a story almost, a story of no end. But yeah, after all that, what I got was the Bleach movie, the first one, and the second one. Those were £2 each. Really like Bleach. I think it gets a lot of stick because it got popular. You know, that happens, doesn't it? Things get popular, so they get stick. But I started watching it years ago. Really got into it and must have watched hundreds of episodes. But then got stuck on a filler arc and never got beyond it. I think there was a really good story arc which I got really into. It seemed to last a long, long time, but then they would introduce filler arcs, and then I got, like I said, never got beyond the filler arc, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I really like the characters in it. Lots of characters, lots of really sort of appealing characters, and I think this is another one that suffered from the same sort of thing. It's got massively popular. It's Attack on Titan, but then again gets stick from certain fan base for both of these is huge. But again, I think they got popular and so they got a lot of stick. I first heard about this. It was in a Guardian column on the Friday sort of film review section. They always have a box set recommendation, and weirdly, they don't often talk about anime, but they spoke about Attack on Titan and they recommended it. And I thought, generally they're worth taking interest in if they recommend stuff. And so I had a go at this. I watched it on a sort of dodgy file sharing websites type thing, and really, really enjoyed it. It's brutal, really brutal. I think the point they made was that, like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, the cast list is massive. Lots of characters introduced, but because of the nature of the setup, there's always sort of that jeopardy, that ever-present jeopardy, and so the characters constantly move on. They get dispatched in horrible ways. They're always killing off characters. So in this, they introduce major characters, and you can't really get attached to them because there's always that ever-present sort of sense of like terror and jeopardy, and just. It is really good. Basically, the setup is that humanity's basically built its walls around its cities because there's these characters called the Titans. They're these sort of multiple stories tall, naked, almost humanoid characters with big grins who eat humans but don't actually benefit. They don't need to eat them just to live, but they seem to be eating them for other reasons, and they've got these dead eyes and these big fixed grins, and basically humanity has to wall themselves into their cities just to survive, and they get comfortable. But then one day these new titans arrive, and these sort of super titans like this one, and this one breaks down the wall and then lets all the other titans in, and that's basically where the story begins. But set in this really interesting sort of medieval type, sort of steampunk universe where the technology is sort of really dated, which means everything's always a struggle, which gives it a really nice, interesting angle. But last one, this was a duplicate, but I've already traded in the other one. I went towards a bit of trading. I can't be asked going. Can you hear that's phone? Can't be asked going. Can't be asked going. Can't be asked to go and answer it. I'll just wait for it to ring. Ulysses. Yeah, Ulysses. £2.50 in a charity shop. The full box set is really collectible. It's obviously not out of print. It's not in print anymore. But single editions aren't so much. But the full box set is really collectible, and you can pay £20 upwards for this. 20, 25, £30, maybe even a bit more for this box set. So, and I used to have one, like I said, and I saw this one. This one was actually slightly better nick, so I kept it. Traded the other one into computer exchange, and yeah, kept this one. Kept the slightly better one, but yeah, I used to love this as a kid. Loved it. Pretty dark. It's basically Barry Gibb in space kicking ass against Greek gods. Barry Gibb with a blue girl, his son, and a little metallic morph type character. Yeah, it's dark. It is dark. All of these all of these stories from Greek mythology played out as some sort of intergalactic sort of space children's program. But yeah, I think it benefits not being created to support toy sales because so much of the cartoons we used to watch as kids were basically all about getting kids to buy toys, weren't they? And this wasn't. This was just basically it's a storyline in its own right with no toys attached, and it benefits from it. It's dark, really good, and it holds up. The first one's really just it holds up. It's obviously animation's a bit 80s and a bit creaky. One of the best opening title tunes intros ever. I might leave a link to it actually because it needs to be seen along with Galaxy Rangers. No one knows Galaxy Rangers except for me, but Galaxy Rangers has also got a brilliant opening title sequence tune. But no, they don't always hold up stuff like that. Like I've recently mistakenly paid for Amazon Prime. You know, mistakenly. It's gone all dark again. Found that Thundercats was available to watch. So I sat down and watched it, and fucking hell, that's aged badly. It's that little prick Snarf. Oh, Snarf. You basically you fuck off, Snarf. He's an annoying little bastard. But it's not an easy watch. Thundercats. It basically means that my old childhood was a lie. There's another one. Go away. I'm going to take that as my cue to leave. Thanks for watching, and yeah, there'll be more videos on the way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.